Okay, so what I am going to do next is take up a tutorial of Microsoft Excel to show how you can use Microsoft Excel in rest of this particular course. I will just go over a quick presentation that I have made on using Microsoft Excel. So when you open Microsoft Excel, this is the kind of the overall window that will open in front of you. This is the Microsoft Excel window, it is called the worksheet. At the bottom you will have the list of all the sheets that are available. At the top this is the menu bar, and this is what is known as the ribbon, as I have shown in the next particular slide. So this is the menu bar. As you can see, the various menu options, the home menu option tells you various things about cutting and pasting. This particular guy tells you allows you to change the fonts. Over here you have various formatting for the numbers, so on and so forth. The other menu that will be useful for us is the formulas menu, and the final menu that will be useful for us is the insert menu when we are going to insert any figure in this Microsoft Excel. This particular sub menu is called a ribbon in the Microsoft Excel, and this is a fairly self-explanatory stuff when you actually open up a particular menu bar. This gives you the various options under that menu bar, and finally, as I told earlier, at the bottom you had the various tabs for the worksheet. Over here what is showing is there are 3 different worksheets. The worksheet that is currently active is what is called sheet number 1. Okay. The next thing that I want to point out to you is that the worksheet contains nothing but a range of rows and columns. So the columns are named as A, B, C, D, E, F and so on, and the rows are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. Okay. This particular guy over here is the current cell. This current cell is represented as C, the column C, and row 4. The location or the name of the cell is located over here. So this tells you the current active cell, this particular guy over here. Okay. And as you start entering anything into the cell, you will also be able to see it in this formula bar. Okay. Any numerical formula and so on you will be entering in the cell, and you will be able to see this in this particular formula bar. What we are going to do is take a look at how we enter numbers, how we enter statements and words, letters and so on, as well as how we do computations in Microsoft Excel. And this particular cell, this cell C4, is called the active cell. So if you have Microsoft Excel that is installed on your machine, you will probably have a shortcut on your desktop. You can double click that shortcut and you can go to Microsoft Excel. If you do not have Microsoft Excel, the other options that are available to you include the OpenOffice. So OpenOffice has a worksheet which is very similar to Microsoft Excel, and the third option that is available to you is using the Google Documents. In Google Documents you have the worksheet or the spreadsheet documents. The spreadsheet documents works very similar to the way Microsoft Excel does, at least for the examples that I have looked at. But the whole idea over here is to promote this learning of this computational techniques using this Microsoft Excel, or using any kind of a worksheet equivalent to Microsoft Excel. So let me double click this and it will open a worksheet in Microsoft Excel. Okay. So this is the worksheet which looks very similar to what we have seen earlier. Now one of the things we can do is, we want to select the entire rows and columns, we can click and press at the top and the entire row and columns will be selected. If we want, we can increase the width of each row or width of each column, and let me just go ahead and increase the width of each column to 100 pixels. Okay. The width now it shows as 100 pixels, and you will see that the overall width of this particular worksheet has increased. Next thing that I am going to actually do is just select a few rows and columns and just increase the font size from 11 to a larger font size. Let us say we will make this font size as 18, so that anything we write will be visible to us. Okay. Now I will start typing in the current row A1. A1 is the current row. Let us take some examples in MS Excel. Okay. And I press enter, and this is what I get in this particular cell. Okay. If you look at the formula bar, whatever we have written over here appears in the formula bar, and this is the overall thing that appears in that particular cell. Okay. As you will find that the amount of material that we have put in this cell exceeds the width of this cell. So what we will do is we will go over to multiple cells and we will just merge the cells. The cells can be merged by using this merge and center button that we have over here, or right clicking on this and clicking on format cells, and format cells, go to alignment and click on merge cells, and this will merge all the cells. So what we have now is that cell A1 now encompasses 4 columns and is encompassing one single row. Okay. So let us now take 4 numbers, let us call those numbers as A, B, C and D. Okay. Let us arbitrarily take numbers 12, 2.3, 4 and 7. Okay. Let us say we want to add the 2 numbers A and B. Okay. In that case, what we are going to do is we are going to use the formula. To start entering the formula, I first need to type equal sign. Okay. Once I type equal sign, it is now ready to take the formula. What I can do is I can take this my mouse and move to the cell that I want to, and this is going to be the value of the variable A plus B, and I can press enter. Okay. And I have added those 2 numbers. Alternatively, what I can do is I can write equal to and look at the number of this particular cell. This cell is A3, so equal to A3 plus I want to add that to the cell B3. Okay. So when I write A3 plus B3, immediately what you see is that A3 is colored with blue color and that particular cell is highlighted over here. B3 gets colored with green color and that particular cell gets highlighted over here, and when I press enter, I will get the number 14.3. Okay. Let us say now we want to take the difference B minus C. So we want to take this 2.3 minus 4. What I can do is I can press equal to, I can click on this, I can press minus, I can click on this, and I will get the difference between the two, and that is minus 1.7. A third way of doing this, and let us say we want to get the value of C multiplied by D, what we can do is press equal to and then take the cursor keys. Okay. Cursor keys are the arrow keys, up arrow, left arrow, right arrow and so on. I will first click on the right arrow. Okay. And right arrow, as you can see, leads to this particular cell, and the number of that cell immediately comes in our formula bar as well as in our cell. Okay. I will click the right cursor key once again and B7 will change to C7 because we will go to this particular column and this particular cell. So I have pressed the right cursor key once, and now what I will do is I will press the up cursor key 3 times. So 4 times, 3 and 4, and we have gone to C3. Okay. As you can see, every time I press the cursor keys, as this particular guy moves, you will see that this particular number also changes. Okay. And we have this number 4 highlighted. For multiplication, we will use star, and 4 multiplied by this we can take by moving on the cursor key or clicking using the mouse. Either ways is equivalent to each other, and we press enter and we get that number. Okay. Not only this, we can also have trigonometric functions, exponential functions, so on and so forth. So to get trigonometric function, let us say we want sine of 4, so we will type equal to and we will start typing the formula. As you start typing the formula that are available to you will be highlighted in this drop down menu. we can choose this particular formula sine, okay, and that's by double clicking that sine gets available over here, and I can then go and click over here, close the bracket and press enter, and I will get this as sine of 4. Likewise, let us say I want to take e to the power 7, all I need to do is equal to exponential exp, okay, and the number 7 and press enter. Okay. Now, if I wanted to get e to the power minus 7, okay, what I can do is I can go on to this particular formula, go to this formula bar and click at the appropriate location. When I click at that appropriate location, I will be allowed to edit this particular formula, and instead of e to the power 7 I wanted e to the power minus 7, I will just put the negative sign over there and press enter, and I get e to the power minus 7. Okay. Now, let us look at the case where we want to find we have certain numbers x, okay, and we want to find say x square plus 3x, okay, and let us say I start with value of x equal to 1. Again what I will do is equal to, I will use the left cursor key to highlight this, x to the power 2 plus 3 multiplied by x. Again to get x I will press the left cursor key and I will press enter. So this is going to be 1 squared plus 3 multiplied by 1, and that value equal to 4. Okay. Now let us say I want to repeat that same formula for x equal to 2. Okay. I will just press this x equal to 2, I will go on to this particular number, highlight it and just drag it below. Okay. I drag it from the right edge and I will drag it below, and as you can see the formula gets automatically updated. So I have 2 square which is 4 plus 3 multiplied by 2, that is 6, which is 6 plus 4 is 10, and I get the number over here as 10. Okay. So what has happened when I had dragged, now take a look at this formula bar, what has happened. Okay. When I have dragged, initially I had this as a10 multiplied by 3 multiplied a10 squared multiplied by 3a10. Okay. When I dragged it below, a10 automatically became a11, okay, and this also guy became a11. Okay. Now let us say we wanted to do it not just for 1 and 2, but we wanted to do it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I can do is I can highlight both these numbers 1 and 2, take my cursor at the right bottom, okay, and just drag it below. Okay. When I drag it below, as you can see in the small square that appears below my just next to my cursor, I see a number 6, that means I have dragged enough to get up to number 6. Excel has automatically filled in all these numbers. Okay. Now what you can do is take this and again drag it below, and you will get this formula that is repeated at each time. Okay. Let us say that we want to calculate b multiplied by x, where b is this value over here, plus c. Okay, let us say we want to calculate that value. In that case what we will do is I will press equal to, I will take my mouse and click on the value of b, okay, multiplied by x, plus again I will take my mouse and then click on the value over here and press enter. Okay. So this is going to be 2.3 multiplied by 1 plus 4, which gives you 6.3. Okay. Now let us say I want to repeat this for x equal to 2 also. Let us see what happens if we drag and drop it over here. If we drag and drop, there is some problem, and why is that problem? That problem happens if, now you can see what happens. I am just clicking the button F2, F2 is edit. Okay. So if I click F2, I will see what happened. So when I dragged from here below, the formula got updated. Okay. You see what has happened is x, instead of this being operated on this particular value, has now gone to the value below, but what has also happened is these two also have been dragged below. Okay. So, this is what happens, it is consistent with the overall Excel behavior. If we drag it once more, again these two columns also get dragged below. If we want to prevent that, the way to do that is, I will clear this what I had just done. The way to do that is use the dollar signs. If you use the dollar signs, the numbers when you drag do not change. So, if I use $B $3 and $C $3, okay, nothing happens over here, but when I drag it, okay, what is going to happen is $B $3 and $C $3 will not change to B4 and C4. Okay, I will just drag it over here and we will just click on F2 and we will see B has remained where it is, C3 has remained where it is. What has changed is from A10 we have changed to A11. So, dollar makes Excel keep the cell numbers as it were in as when we had entered in the formula, and then what we will do is click at this particular edge and drag it below, so that these numbers get repeated for the entire column. Okay. So, this is what we get when we do this for this straightforward exercise.